the last night from Seattle to Minneapolis to Kansas City here. I'm always talking, meeting people, meeting different people. I speak to Fortune 500 companies, professional athletes, organizations everywhere, and I run into NCOs all over the place, everywhere. I run into NCOs. And when I run into NCOs, they always talk about one thing, whether they got out as sergeant first class working for Upper Armor, or whether they're working for Sporting Kansas City, or working for the LA Rams, or whoever it is, they talk about their experience in, it used to be called PLDC, then it was a Warrior Leader course, now it's the Basic Leader course. They talk about that. Because the big thing about this course, it's a transition from going from private to specialist to be Sergeant E5. It's a big deal, right? It's the difference between being a follower and being a leader. It's in every organization, so everybody's heard the word Joe, right? Joe. Well, let me tell you, Joe's everywhere. Joe's with the Seahawks. Joe's at the Jets. Joe's at Garmin. Joe's at everywhere. It's the person who's just kind of always going around doing whatever it is. They just not really any direction. Just kind of a follower, not a leader. So now that you're done with this course, you're now a leader. That's what this course is all about. And so I'm just going to share a couple things with you. So only 1% of military or of the civilian population of the United States has ever served, right? It's kind of that number, right? Well, only 50% of that 1% have ever had the honor of being a non-commissioned officer. Everybody else, wherever they fall in at, officers, young enlisted, but only half of 1% of the population has ever been a non-commissioned officer. So that's the story, and it's the reason why I want to come share a few things with you all. NCO Creed. So the NCO Creed says that I'm an NCO, nobody's more professional than who? I, right? But from this point on, it's not just, I. All right, so you say NCO Creed, nobody's more professional than I. But with some emphasis, right? Because the difference between being just average and mediocre and being great is that push. That's one thing that I've seen. So as I talk to people, what's the difference between somebody who is great, somebody who makes great things for themselves? Number one, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm trumps everything. People always talk about when you go talk to somebody or you meet somebody and say, oh, they got that it. They got this. No, they're enthusiastic. Anybody can be enthusiastic. And there's ways you can be enthusiastic. So we're going to talk a little bit about the game. The game has changed. And the thing about the game is, it isn't where you start, it's where you end. It doesn't matter where you start at. There's a lot of people that start in certain places. I didn't graduate from high school. A lot of people start in different places, but it's where you end at. It's where you take what you have and you go with it. And that's why you got to make sure you take the experience from this. And there's a lot of Sergeant E5s in here. And for the specialists, when you leave here and you're now a non-commissioned officer, you got to take those things with you. So going on, number one, you should always have something to write with and write on for the rest of your life, always. Because from this point on, you're always networking. You're always meeting people, you're talking to people, you're learning, because this is a step. 24/7. One thing about being a soldier, but another thing about being an NCO, whether you're a Chief Petty Officer, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, you are now in a different elite group. You're watched 24/7. You're no longer the private to specialist or another organization Joe. Somebody's watching everything you do. You're kind of in the middle. So young soldiers are now watching you. Officers are watching you. Everybody's watching everything you do as a non-commissioned officer. Well, number one, you got to make sure you circle yourself around with positive people wanting to do the same things you're doing. And continue with that, just like you've been in here. So if you're doing something that's not positive or doing something then you need to go find another group. Because again, as I look at people with success, that's what I find. People surround themselves with positive people. All of you know, because you're no longer part of that crowd. You're no longer part of the private to specialist or always complaining, don't have this, don't have time. It's always, we're going to talk about complaining. Complaining's done. No more complaining. There's no reason to complain anymore. I have 10 observations. These are observations that I've done over the last year as I've now talked to 19 of these basic leader courses. So, on my list up there, first of all, right always, no one looking. So, that means you are always doing right even when nobody's looking. And you see it in the airport. I'm listening all the time, right? And so you hear a couple soldiers, service members, not in uniform, but they're talking. And maybe using profanity or talking about this or telling some kind of joke that probably isn't. You're being watched all the time everything you do. And again, you're in the top half of 1%. I know you look around and see other people and go, well, this person's doing this and that person's doing that. You're exactly right. And that's why Russell Wilson does what he does, and the other people that went to North Carolina State and Wisconsin are doing whatever they're doing, whatever job. Jack in the Box, Burger King. What separates those two and what makes greatness and what makes mediocre and average. And so I'm just trying to help you understand that you've got to do right all the time, even when somebody's not looking. Criticize, huge. When I was a young lieutenant, I worked for a guy named General Powell. I worked right under him. He told me something and said, remember this and always remember that you criticize in private, praise in public. So as you become young and you're young NCOs and you're going to start counseling, you're going to start taking people around the arm and say, let me talk to you. The worst thing in the world, and you've seen it. So when you see it, you just understand it, you know it. But criticizing in public, those days are over with. You counsel, you coach, you teach, you mentor. And some people can't remain. Some people, you know, young soldiers and privates, PFCs, young specialists, and you want to groom them to be NCOs, but you know what? They're just not going there. That's okay. They can go somewhere else and go find another job. We can't work it that way. They can't maintain to be that half of 1%. But criticize in private, praise in public. So from this point forward, the word work is gone. Don't even use the word work anymore. Look how young everybody is in this room. Even if you stay to do 25 years, become sergeant major, command sergeant major, whatever. This is it's in 2016. It's not 1985. It's not even 2005. 2016, you can stay and be command sergeant major, get out, and still have 25, 30 years to go work another job, go do another profession. I meet them all the time. So instead of looking at this as work, look at every day as an opportunity. That's all it is. It's an opportunity for you. That's all it is. So every day you get an opportunity to meet people, get a chance to go to school, get a chance to network, decide maybe what I want to do someday when I grow up. It doesn't mean, it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't want to do this, or of course you're going to do this now. You're going to give it 1,000% as a non-commissioned officer and become a senior non-commissioned officer. But it's okay to look at this as an opportunity, because people are successful, that's how they look at life. The days of using excuses that you can't go to school, those are done. Those are finished. Absolutely done. You can go to school. I have every semester, I teach 3 college classes online with young soldiers all over the world. Afghanistan, Iraq, deployed everywhere. You can go to school online. There's no excuses. All right? Maybe you got to put, Pokemon Go or Seasons of Lost or whatever it is you're spending time on. When you have free time, I see all the time on the hallway. People just, nothing but just free time, just sitting there on Facebook or doing whatever. That's a chance you can be knocking out school. You can knock something out for your future. That's an opportunity. The other half of my online college classes is I have regular students. Your family, your friends that aren't in the military, that are on the outside, and you know how difficult it is for them to go to school, working 3 jobs, raising kids, trying to pay tuition. Most of them can't go. And the ones that can go there have a difficult time. The dropout rate is very high. How much tuition do you have to pay for school? 0, right? And any school you get accepted to, anywhere. So as long as you get accepted. So you want to start with community college, that's fine. You want to get anywhere, Notre Dame, Harvard, Cornell, no matter where it is, your tuition's paid for. So in the books, you get the books online, it doesn't cost anything. But the days of, when I talk to people about going to school, it's important. I know a lot of you are going to school, but there's a lot of people coming up with excuses, because I talk to them all the time. And for those at Fort Leonard Wood, that's where I'm back at Fort Leonard Wood now. So I talk to soldiers all the time. When I travel all the time, and I meet people, talk about school. So again, take advantage of that. That's one of those things that when you realize how tough things are, that's one of your advantages, is college. Nobody wants to hear you complain. Nobody. 50% of the people are glad that you got the problem, and the other 50% are glad it's not them. That's one thing I learned about getting diagnosed with cancer. I had my little pity party for about 3 days. Then I realized nobody wants to hear my story. And so same thing, you've been around young soldiers, right? I can go tonight. And so I'm staying here tonight, so I'll come tonight to the bowling alley or whatever, and young soldiers will be around, what are they doing? And everybody, soldiers just complaining. In the old days, yeah, you could complain, because the only time you could go to school was if you had to go hard campus. The only time you could network was if you actually met somebody. You can network if you have a goal, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to do something, you can go on LinkedIn, you can go on Snapchat, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Facebook, you can meet people. I'm doing this is what I'm currently doing now, but then I'm going to do this. That one up means this, that you're always looking up. So if you are a squad leader, so you're always looking at the platoon sergeant, what the platoon sergeant's doing, and you're also looking at the platoon leader. Because at any time, you could go do either one of those two jobs. So you're taking notes. What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they not doing? And so what I mean by not doing is, what are the leadership things they're doing as you're observing that you probably would not do? So when you hear the platoon sergeant take somebody behind the woodshed, we all know that, right? Is yelling and screaming, but everybody can hear it. So yeah, you know what? When I become a platoon sergeant, someday those are the things I'm not going to do. But you keep that journal. Everybody that I've met that is successful has a journal. They just do. They always write down all their thoughts, all their ideas, where I want to go, goals. You know what? I need to think about calling this college. Maybe I need to connect with this person and talk about that. The great thing about connecting with people, it keeps you positive. I have a thing that I use that I picked up from a guy named Ty Lopez, and it's called the 33% rule. This is great for you all. So what you do is you divide up your time into threes. And so all of you have like that big goal you want to do, right? I mean, everybody, you may want to be Sergeant Major of the Army, like Sergeant Major was saying earlier today, or maybe you want to be the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, whatever it may be, but you have goals. So 33% rule means this. You spend 33% of your time with people trying to get to where you are right now. As a young non-commissioned officer, you all know people that are young enlisted soldiers. You know people back home that aren't even in the military, but you know what? This probably would be good for them. So you try to bring them up. Then you spend 33% of your time with this group right here. And who's this? It's your peers, right? Your peers. And if you're not connecting with everybody in this room, now you need to be, because you're all going to see each other again as you continue to go up, ask questions of each other. You know people that you've hung around that are positive people. And then 33% of your time here. That's places you want to go. So if for some reason you want to work for Nike, let's just say, it's very easy to network. You go to LinkedIn, you go to Nike, you have your account, and you look at the names. And you find somebody's name, you send them an email. I'm a Sergeant E5, this is where I'm at. Military is my career, as I plan on doing. I'm working on my major in business. I'm going to Park College, whatever it is. But what do I need to do someday to be the director of marketing, or the director of Upper Armor, or the director of Adidas? Guess what? Those positions are all filled with who? Prior NCOs. Prior NCOs. Let me talk about trust. It's a beautiful thing. This is where it flips a little bit between being a non-commissioned officer and being an officer. NCOs, you learn to trust. You're now a young soldier to an NCO. You trust. And you trust with enthusiasm and with optimism. And that's just the way you are. You're taught to be that way. The NCO Creed teaches that way. How many times do you go somewhere, you don't even know where you're going? I just spent 5 years in Germany. People come to Germany to 21st replacement. They come there, don't have an idea where they're going. But guess what? Initially, it seems like, the Army's not taking care of me. But you know what? In the long run, they are taking care of you, because you learned a valuable lesson. And the lesson is trust. It's trust. So when you decide to make this change, 4 years from now, 10 years, 15, whenever you decide your career in the military is done, and you make that change, you leave with trust. Every single NCO I talk to, whether it's an airport, working as a video guy for the Seattle Seahawks, I met yesterday, all these, retired sergeant first class doing that, every one of them had trust that when I step out and take this uniform off and I go do something else, I have trust. The trust thing, you cannot be successful without trust. You have to trust. NCO Creed. Officers will have, everybody knows this, right? Officers will have what? You can go say it. They have maximum time to do what? And they will not have to accomplish mine. You know why they can't accomplish yours? They can't do yours. The coach can't be the quarterback. The coach can't be the running back. The coach can't be the wide receiver. You can't sit back and just organize things and then all of a sudden jump into the game. And we talked about the difference between trust and having your hand held through something. You have trusted. It's different. It's two different things. Management. But now you've combined management with what? Leadership. And not saying officers, they have leadership, but it's different. It's different between non-commissioned officers. That's why when I go to, there's so many different websites for basic leader courses. It used to be called, of course, PLDC and Warrior Leader Course. There's one I spoke many, many times to the 7th NCO, the basic leader course in Grafenberg. And there is, I don't know the last count, 75, 80,000 people on this website, all for this one location, and it's bounced around a couple places in Germany. But reminiscing, people in their 80s, 70s, they have now completed 2, 3 careers talking about this moment right here, when you made the transition from being a follower to a leader. And some of you led before, you were prepared for this. But for the most part, when you step and leave here, you're a leader. Somebody's watching. You've now identified that this is somebody I want to be around, somebody I don't want to be around. And that's just the way it is. You know, when Sergeant Major said today, if you want to be the, Sergeant Major of the Army, you can do that. If that's what you want to do, you can do anything you want to do. But the difference is this, and I learned this. Anybody know who Calvin Kaepernick is, the CEO of Uber, or the CEO of Snapchat, or the CEO of Airbnb, and all these different things. These guys are all in their early 20s, mid-20s, right? Late 20s, early 30s. Those organizations are worth what? Billions of dollars. When I go speak to athletes, when I speak to Fortune 500 companies, when I speak to doctors and nurses and cancer centers, you can become in this country anything you want to be. But you know the one thing you can't do, you have to earn it? You got to earn it to be this. You do. And it's just a fraternity that lasts the rest of your life. You could walk out of here, and you put your uniform up, you're done. I'm going to take my 9/11 GI Bill, and I'm going for it. And I'm going to go to Harvard. I'm going to go to Stanford. You can do that. And you'll always have part of this society with you. Always with you. And it's strong. Believe me, I'm out there all the time. Before, when I was just on the inside, I didn't see it. But now that I wrote the book and I'm on the outside, I see it. Now I'm writing my second book on community college, because I love community college. I've taught there for 20 years. And I've got about 3,000 students with 3,000 different stories of success. And remember what I said. It's not where you start. It's where you end. Gratitude and thanks. Make sure that you give gratitude and thanks all the time. I'm not going to go into the story. I got several in the book talking about thanks and giving gratitude and how that comes back to you twofold. It's wonderful. Last, I don't know why, it's a pet peeve of mine as a leader, and that is PowerPoint. I don't know why I just came in there, and that's why it says 10A. But you are now a professional. Do not get up there, let other people do it. Don't get up here and read PowerPoint slides to people, all right? Extemporaneous speaking. Who knows what extemporaneous speaking is? What is that? Speaking away from what? The script. This is extemporaneous speaking. Okay, I read that, then I look at you in the eye, and I read it to you. When I read a PowerPoint slide to you, what is that? It's lazy. You didn't put any work into it. You did nothing. So when you leave here, set yourself apart. When you have your journal, you write down those things. What is it that sets myself apart? For those of you traveling, when you're in the airport tonight, I thought about that this morning when I was in Minneapolis. I'm looking at different people. You can look at somebody and tell this person's a business person, right? They're not overweight. They don't look sloppy. They look like they're taken care of. You listen to them talk. They can separate themselves. One thing I learned as a young person was I used to caddy when I was a young kid. You know anything about golf? I used to caddy. And I grew up on a side of town where we didn't really have golf, we didn't have any of that kind of stuff. But I used to ride my bicycle outside of town caddy. And one thing I learned was communication skills. You could easily tell who the doctors, who the lawyers, who the senior NCOs were on McClellan Air Force Base where I grew up by. You knew who they were and separated by communication. So always work on communication skills. One of those things is not just because of plug, because I'm a communication person, but if you have not had a public speaking class, you got to take one. You just take it. And interpersonal communication, just take it. It'll help all of them. So I get you. So that's my 10 keys right there. Go down the line and over here. I wrote that because that's the end of the NCO Creed, and I think it's really, really special. And that is, I will not forget. So you don't have to forget the experience of what you got. Because what I see when I see NCOs, like I spoke to the Senior Leader course the other day, and when I see officers who become more senior, they forget. They forget what it was like to be enthusiastic. We've all seen how people get older. Like when you get older, you're not supposed to have fun. When you get older, you forget. Don't forget the feeling you have here. Don't forget what it's like to be a young specialist or a young Sergeant E5 and as you move forward. So I will not forget, nor will I allow my comrades to forget. So that means you remind each other. When you put your arm around somebody and say, hey, look, that's not something you probably need to say. You probably don't need to do that. We're professionals. And if they don't listen, then you just kind of move on. But again, that's kind of your task. You just don't let things go. We are professionals, non-commissioned officers, and leaders. So the last one about leadership, and being a leader. Leadership is between, just like I talked to the young volleyball team at the University in Seattle yesterday, leadership is between who? You and you. It's between yourself. You're the one. You're the one that makes the decision. You know what? The platoon leader, platoon sergeant's not going to have PT score higher than me. It's not going to be. And that's the great thing about being young like you all are, right? So nobody, my platoon sergeant, my platoon leader, my company commander, because that's something that you can just, you do it on your own, right? Something you can easily judge doing PT. Same thing with education. I'm going to make sure you set yourself goals. and say, at the end of this year, I'm gonna have 6 semester hours, or I'm gonna, whatever it may be. I think we've gotten past the time that chain of commands are like, well, I don't know if I want my soldiers, spending a whole lot of time thinking about school because we're getting ready to deploy, or we're getting ready to do that. Studies have shown that it is positive. It is positive. When I briefed my book to the Army staff at the Pentagon about resiliency, it's positive for you to be thinking about positive things. But now I talk about you, it also says comrades, not forget. So now that you're a leader and you're a young non-commissioned officer, that means you're reminding young soldiers, right? So just because you're a Sergeant E5, just because you're a staff sergeant, and you're like, oh man, I haven't really started, that doesn't mean you don't start counseling and mentoring the young people to do the things also that you either wish you wanted to do or you're just now starting to do, okay? So again, I love the start of the NCO Creek, all right? Nobody more professional than I just think that's something that I think about all the time when I am anywhere. Just to let you know, this started a year and a half ago when I started doing these at BLCs, that when I'm anywhere, I could be at Chick-fil-A ordering food, I could be talking to some college or some cancer center or doctors or surgeons. I always ask myself, what would they do as an NCO? Gratitude. So make sure you thank somebody for where you're at right now. All right? Be thankful for where you're at. And again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everything you're doing. And God bless all of you. Thank you. I don't know if you need leadership. Any leadership in here, or you want